Hey guys, welcome back, and today we're going to be talking about Shout Factory's newest release, Red Dawn. But before we do that, if you guys are into movie reviews, 4K Blu-ray reviews, movies, TV, tech, and some video games along the way, then consider subscribing because we do all that here on the channel. So, jumping right in, this is the newest release from Shout Factory, Red Dawn. This is my first time seeing the movie, and I really liked it. Now, this is not something I would generally watch. It's not exactly in my wheelhouse, but I ended up really enjoying it. And you know what? It reminded me of something you would watch in high school for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe in like history class or something. Because, I mean, it's a fictional story. It did not happen. It's not real. But it could, you know, like this very well could happen. And if you've never seen Red Dawn, this is a film from 1984. So basically, Cuba and Russia invade the United States. Specifically, this town in Colorado is where it takes place. And these kids they're all young, they're on the football team, you know, they're seniors in high school, maybe not even seniors, it doesn't really specify what grade they're in, but they're in class and then their teacher just sees some parachutes dropping down to the ground. He goes outside to see what was going on, they mow him down without even asking a question, and everyone scatters out of the town, and then they're in survival mode, instincts kick in, and they're gonna fight for their country, so they end up becoming the Wolverines, which was their school mascot and football team, and they went by the Wolverines and they were performing guerrilla warfare. You know, they were fighting back. A lot of the people were put into camps, and they said, "No, this is bullshit. We're gonna fight back. We're gonna take back our land. We're gonna fight for our country." So they find another fighter pilot that was shot down, and he ends up being a colonel. They help him out, and then they go around just performing all this guerrilla warfare, blowing up camps and convoys and just teams of the enemy soldiers. They're just taking them all out, and it was really cool to see. They called it World War III in the movie. Now, obviously, World War III has never happened yet. It's possible, you know, especially with the world today. And this is a pretty accurate way of something that could happen. You know, it's not impossible for this movie to happen. So it is kind of an eye-opener, you know. But anyway, the movie itself, I really enjoyed it. You know, it's an early Patrick Swayze film. He was pretty much the leader of the group. He was the captain of the football team. So he took charge and he led the Wolverines. He led them through battle, you know, and performing all the guerrilla warfare. Charlie Sheen was his brother, and they kind of took charge, and they survived for a few months, you know. I mean, they ended up not making it in the end, spoilers, but there was some survivors, and the war did eventually end, and it's big help to Charlie Sheen and Patrick Swayze's character. They have their names up on the rock. There's a big memorial at the end of the movie, and they played a big part. If not, they pretty much won the war by taking out all the generals at the end. But that was the movie. I really enjoyed it. If you're into war movies, I'm not a huge war movie person, but this is not exactly like a Black Hawk Down, Saving Private Ryan. You know, it's not like a hardcore war movie. This is, I mean, it's guerrilla warfare. You know, I don't know how to say it exactly, but it held my interest, and I'm not a big war movie person, so take that with a grain of salt. So now to talk about the release itself from Shout Factory. You got your basic slipcover, how they always do it, 4K up top, the same artwork on the box inside. So we pull off that slipcover, and then you have your 4K and your Blu-ray. Now both the 4K and the Blu-ray both have the new 4K scans from the original camera negative, and they both look really good. I tested both in my 4K player, and honestly, I can't really find, like, if you showed me one or the other, maybe I watched the entire movie on 4K and I just scanned through a few scenes on Blu-ray, and I don't really see a huge difference. I also have a pretty expensive Blu-ray player where it upscales, and I have a very nice screen, so it could just be the upscaling. You know, I mean, the 4K is maybe 5% better than the Blu-ray disc, but it is a new 4K scan on the Blu-ray disc, so keep that in mind. So visually, the movie looked pretty good. You know, the color grading and the HDR really did help with the Dolby Vision. And overall, I think it looked pretty good. Again, I've never seen the movie before. I have nothing older to compare this to, but it looked pretty good on my OLED. There was no scenes that that really stood out to me that I can complain about. So overall, I would say Shout did a great job, as they always do. I can't really recall any Shout or Scream movies where I've said, oh, this looks terrible. They generally always do a fantastic job and really hit the nail on the head. Now, let's talk audio, because that's where things get interesting with this. So it advertises a Dolby Atmos track and a DTS Master Audio 5.1, and I cannot find the Dolby Atmos track for the life of me. Both discs have the DTS HD Master Audio HD 5.1 and then a 2.0 surround option. Those are the only two options. I went through all the settings on my Blu-ray player. I went through all the settings on the disc. I cannot access an Atmos track. And now my Blu-ray player has a display screen where it tells me what the disc is doing and what the Blu-ray player is doing, and it's saying DTS HD. There is no Dolby audio on this disc, and they're advertising it. Now, depending on when this video comes out, John's reviewing the Child's Play 4Ks from Scream Factory, which is an umbrella, is still under the Shout Factory umbrella, and we found a Dolby Atmos problem with those discs as well. It's not advertising Dolby Atmos on the box, but when you put the disc in, there's an Atmos track on the disc. So someone's sleeping behind the wheel at Shout Factory right now, because there's some issues going on with the audio, and I'm not entirely sure what's going on over there. Now, it still sounded great with the DTS HD 5.1. My Blu-ray player upscales to PCM 7.1 from the DTS HD, because my Sonos soundbar doesn't support DTS, so it upscales it to a PCM 7.1 surround, which is fine. It still sounded great, but my soundbar sure does support Dolby Atmos. So I'm trying to figure out, is it a typo on the box where it says Dolby Atmos, because it's also printed on small font on the disc, and if you look at a lot of your discs, they want to advertise that these discs have Dolby Vision, Dolby Atmos. Look at any newer release, any 4K, they're going to say Dolby Vision, Dolby Atmos. Even older Blu-rays will say Dolby Audio. They'll advertise the main facts on the disc like that. I'm thinking there might be a recall on this soon, maybe. There's a mistake or a misprint on the box. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm almost certain and willing to bet money that there's no Dolby Atmos on the disc, because I cannot find it. If someone can tell me down in the comments how to access the Dolby Atmos track, that'd be great. But I'm really, I watch a lot of movies, we review these things. I'm not an idiot. I know how to switch the audios, I know how to do all that stuff. And even while the movie's playing, I'll press the audio button on my remote and I can switch between the two DTS tracks, but I cannot find the Atmos. So, you know, if that's a deal breaker for you, then maybe wait a little while, see what happens, see if this comes out and Shout fixes it down the road maybe. Maybe we'll be able to do what Arrow does when they have a screw up. You send in your proof of purchase and they'll mail you another disc. I don't know what's going to happen with this, and I'm curious to see what John finds with these Child's Plays, because he's having a similar issue where there's a misprint on the box and the disc has a different audio than what is on the box and the disc. So I think this also came out the same day as Child's Play, so maybe they were all printed on the same company did that job. You know, they're outsourcing all the disc pressing and the cover arts and all that stuff, so that could be a thing. I'm not entirely sure, but who's to say? I'm not an employee over at Shout Factory, so I can't really speak on it. This is just what I'm finding in my review, and I wanted to let you guys know. As far as the special features go, there's no special features on the 4K disc. All the special features are on the Blu-ray disc only. And I'll read right off the back of the box. I didn't watch any of them, but there are a bunch of featurettes. There's Red Dawn Rising, a featurette. Training from World War III, a featurette. Building the Red Menace, a featurette. World War III Come to Town, a featurette. And the original theatrical trailer. So those are all the special features. It's got a ton of special features on the Blu-ray disc only. And yeah, I mean, it's a solid release. You know, the Blu-ray and the 4K, they look almost identical, but that could also be the new 4K scan on my really good 4K player with my nice OLED TV. You know, even older Blu-rays upscaled on my player look great. So take that with a grain of salt, however you want to take it. But you know, can I recommend the 4K? With this audio issue, well, it's not so much an issue, I think it's just a misprint. Because I don't think this has an Atmos track. Well, mine doesn't at least. It says it does on the box art, so I think there's a misprint on the box art. But other than that, it looks great. It sounded great still with the DTS track. And it's just your basic Shout release, you know, you got your slipcover and that's about it. So if you're a fan of the movie, I can recommend picking it up. It still sounds great, it still looks great, and if this is an issue, if I did find an issue here, then I think other people will find this, and Scream Factory should probably fix it down the road, and they'll honor everyone who buys it. Don't hold me to that, because I'm not entirely sure. That's what Arrow does. I've never had a problem with a Shout Factory, Scream Factory disc like this. Not that it's a problem, but I think it's just a misprint. So with that being said, I still think it's a good release, and I can recommend picking it up just on the fact of what I have here in my hand. Everything works, everything sounds fine, everything looks fine. Who knows, maybe the misprint, this might be worth money one day because it's a misprint. Who knows, you know, stupid shit like that. People collect this stuff. You never know what happens. That's about it for me here today. And if you guys like this video, please hit the like button and consider subscribing because that's the best way to help us out. But until next time, guys, go Wolverines!
In the